When it comes to Ricciardo, everyone is disappointed that the Honey Badger may be done in F1, and the 2022 season is the last that we will see of the Honey Badger. But is this the true path that Ricciardo wants to take for himself, or is there a chance that we'll see him competing for another top-performing team? Recently, Ricciardo shared an update on his future, and although the response he gave wasn't really an assuring one, there is a chance that we'll see the Aussie back with the team that started it all, Red Bull. What is the reality of this outcome? Stick around with us to find out more. Daniel Ricciardo's desperate tenure with McLaren is finally over, and now that it has been dealt with, Ricciardo's future is very uncertain. He has spoken about what is expected of him in the future, and although the options aren't really presentable for him, there is still hope that we can see him in F1 beyond 2024. Ricciardo currently has two options, and they vary based on whether or not he wants to race in 2023 or not. If he decides to continue racing in 2023, then the only available spot for him would be at Haas. Williams decided to sign their academy driver Logan Sargent, and if the USA driver doesn't qualify for the super license at the end of the F2 championship, then Williams will likely go for Schumacher or Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg is also considered a strong candidate for Haas if Mick is sacked from the team due to lack of results. But as things stand, Ricciardo doesn't want to race in 2023 just for the sake of it, which is something that has been expressed multiple times this season. According to all the statements that were made by the Aussie, his plans are to sit out the 2023 season and then come back and seek an open spot in 2024 and beyond. If this isn't the case, then Ricciardo would likely have to settle for a reserve driver role, something that is very unpleasant as an outcome for a driver of his caliber. After all, he does have experience of winning races, something that teams like Haas and Williams are more than happy to utilize in their own favor. But Ricciardo's head isn't there, and although many fans would be more than happy to see the Aussie race again in 2023, that is a very unlikely outcome for his career. This leaves us with the imagination that he would pick the reserve driver role as the best possible solution for his career. After what Toto Wolff and Hamilton announced when it comes to the Britain's further engagement with Mercedes, it's very unlikely that Ricciardo will choose Mercedes as the team that will use his driving skills for the reserve role. This leaves us with one team that does have a high chance of landing Ricciardo as a reserve driver, and that is Red Bull. The fact that Perez's contract is ending at the end of the 2024 season is enough for Daniel to hope that the team might consider him as the starting driver if the team decides to not extend Perez's deal further. What doesn't go in Ricciardo's favor is the fact that the two AlphaTauri drivers are much younger than him, and by the time he is able to sit in the starting seat at Red Bull, they will have a better chance than him if the team decides to go with a younger and a more prospective driver. But if the team decides to go with experience, then who would be a better choice than Danny? He won 7 races for this team, and although things didn't end perfectly well, Ricciardo's best years were with Red Bull. This is something that Ricciardo hopes will see the light of day, but given the fact that De Vries and Tsunoda will have a much better chance than Ricciardo, it's still a long shot for the Aussie. Rumors have started to circulate whether or not Ricciardo has been offered a contract by Red Bull to be their reserve driver for the 2023 season, to which he replied, I don't. For now, everything is just rumors. Am I talking? Yes, but there is no pen on paper or anything like that. I still have ambitions for 2024, so I won't completely disconnect from the sport, but obviously nothing's guaranteed for 2024. Like, I don't have a seat that I can say I'm definitely going to be driving, but I'll still be around and trying to put work in to be back. As of this point, Ricciardo's tenure in F1 is still uncertain, but what he doesn't seem to understand, or doesn't want to understand, is the fact that the sport is a very anticipated one. This means that the luxury of sitting out a season is something he cannot afford in any given case, because there are many drivers who would do anything in their power to secure a starting spot regardless of the team for which they will drive. With the new regulations, we are seeing the midfield be much more compacted and the back markers score points on multiple occasions. If Danny decides to drive for Haas, rest assured that he'll be much better than he is now with the McLaren. His glory days are far behind him, and what he plans may be far away from achievable. By the time he decides to make a comeback to the sport, there might not be many seats available. Williams, McLaren and AlphaTauri all have young drivers and aren't likely to change the starting spots anytime soon. Haas does have an open spot, and if Ricciardo's plans are to sit out the 2023 season and come back in 2024 just to consider the Haas seat, and if that is the only one available, then rest assured he doesn't need to sit back a whole season. His plans to drive for a top-performing team are currently relying on Red Bull's decision on whether or not Perez will extend his contract with the team beyond 2024. This is, however, the least of the worries that Ricciardo has about whether or not he'll drive for the Austrian team in the near future. Let's say that Perez's contract with Red Bull expires and the team decides to replace him. AlphaTauri signed De Vries for a particular reason, and although he is a decent replacement for Gasly, we all know what AlphaTauri, previously known as Toro Rosso, serves for. The team is the breeding ground for talents for Red Bull's senior team, and in order for the team to not follow its own pattern and sign an older driver, as was the case with Perez, a miracle needs to happen. This miracle would be in the form of Tsunoda or De Vries being given the chance to drive for Red Bull and them failing it, just like Gasly did. It's safe to say that this is a long shot that Ricciardo is hoping for, but rest assured that it is a possibility and nothing would delight us more to see him back in F1. He is far from retiring, and while many fans would love to see him race, the opportunities for the 8-time race winner have become increasingly limited. As for the present, Ricciardo can still hop into the Haas vacant seat, as Mick Schumacher's latest performance says it all about his future with the team. According to reports, Schumacher was given a deadline up until the USGP, and given the fact that his teammates scored points at P8 and Mick finished outside of the points, it's very likely that Haas will move in another direction. Günther Steiner spoke about Ricciardo and why the Aussie doesn't want to drive for Haas, saying, "I think you need to ask Danny that one, not me, about why he doesn't want to race. I don't know if it's something against Haas or just he decides to do something different for a year. I cannot guess what he wants to do. I have no idea what to answer you. If he is interested in us, he's not shy to call me up. I'm not going to chase him down. I want him to decide what he wants to do for himself first, before being talked into something. I think he's a good driver, and I don't know how he got into the situation he's in now, but I think he needs to come clean with himself and decide what he's going to do." Prior to the USGP, Steiner said that Mick Schumacher has the advantage when it comes to keeping the seat for the 2023 season and beyond, mostly because he has experience and knows how to drive the car. But now that the car is capable of scoring points, which wasn't the case in the previous 2 seasons, experience itself isn't enough, and Haas is looking for a constant points scorer. With that being said, do you think that Ricciardo will hope and pray that he'll have a genuine shot for the Red Bull seat, or do you think that he'll jump in the Haas car if he decides that he'll continue racing in 2023? Let us know in the comments down below.